SyntaxMatrix presents AI Trending News.
Anthropic releases their latest model, Opus 4.7. Alibaba also drops their latest model, Qwen 3.6, and like before, this is open source. And they're not done yet. Alibaba also releases a new real-time interactive world generator, just like Google's Genie 3. We also have another Genie 3 competitor that's open source. This AI generates 3D models with complete skeletons, making it ready for animation. We have a new tiny open source video model. OpenAI drops a new AI that's state-of-the-art for scientific research. We have a new family of super efficient AI models that can even run on your phone. Google releases their best and latest text-to-speech generator. It can even handle emotions and different meta tags. We have some ridiculous humanoid robot demos and a lot more. So let's jump right in. First up, we have a really useful technique for generating videos with multiple scenes that transition seamlessly. So this is called prompt relay, and this is a training-free plug-and-play method which you can add on top of Alibaba's Wand. So here's an example. Let's say for seconds 0 to 2, you have this eagle flying high through the sky, and then you want to transition seamlessly into a car driving through a cyberpunk city, and then you want the camera to zoom out from a TV screen in a living room. Well, traditionally, video generators like WAN or LTX can't really generate such huge transitions seamlessly. But with Prompt Relay, you can see that the entire video is actually super smooth. It indeed was able to switch seamlessly between the different scenes that you specified in your prompt. Or here's yet another example where we can get this guy to place his hand on the camera and then switch the background from a city to a desert. Everything flows naturally without the prompts bleeding into the wrong parts. Here's how it works in simple terms. When you give the model a sequence of prompts, each tied to specific start and end times, Prompt Relay routes them at the cross-attention layers. But it makes sure that the active prompt for that time segment gets strong influence, while gently handling the transitions so the whole video stays coherent. Think of it like a relay race where each prompt hands off cleanly to the next person. The awesome thing is they've released this already, so if you click on this code button and you scroll down a bit, it seems like they've released the implementation instructions to this, but they haven't released the files yet, so maybe it'll take them a few more days. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Next up, we have a family of really unique open source models called ternary bonsai. Now this is basically a family of ultra-efficient 1.58-bit language models, which I'll explain in a second, that allows you to basically run AI on just consumer or edge devices. So what exactly is this ternary model? Well, in simple terms, most language models today store their parameters using 16-bit precision. These are basically the dials and knobs in the neural networks of the model. Now, this gives them a lot of numerical detail, but it also makes them really heavy and memory intensive. That's why most large language models are hundreds of gigabytes in size. But ternary bonsai flips that idea and instead restricts every weight in the model to just 3 possible values, -1, 0, or 1, with a small shared scaling factor applied on top. And this makes it way more efficient. Now here you can see that they've released 3 different models in this family. One is 8 billion parameters, another is 4 billion, and finally the smallest one is 1.7 billion parameters. And what's interesting is how small these models are. Here it says it's 9 times smaller than standard 16-bit models while outperforming most of them. So if you look at this chart, notice that the 8 billion parameter model is only 1.7 gigabytes in size, which is almost 10 times smaller than Qwen 3 8B, but yet its performance or intelligence is almost as good, despite being 10 times smaller. It also outperforms other similar models in its class, including Mistral, Olmo, Llama 3.1, GLM4, across all these benchmarks. So you're seeing consistent gains across reasoning, coding, and knowledge tasks while being a lot smaller and more efficient. If you look at this efficiency chart compared to other standard models, here's where it gets really interesting. The x-axis is the size, so the smaller the better, and then the y-axis is performance, so the higher the better. Ideally, you want to be in this upper left quadrant, and as you can see, this bonsai family is over here, way smaller but just as performant as the other competitor models. And if you look at throughput, notice they're showing tokens per second across devices, on consumer GPUs, or even on mobile chips. These models are hitting over 100 tokens per second, which is fast enough for real-time applications. That's how efficient this is. The awesome thing is they've released this already. So if you click on this GitHub repo on the right side, here it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your device. If I click on the largest 8 billion parameter model on Hugging Face, notice that this is only 2.32 gigabytes in size, so this can fit on most consumer devices. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Also this week, OpenAI releases a product that focuses on one of the biggest bottlenecks in science. It's called GPT-Rosalind, and this is a reasoning model designed specifically for life sciences research, things like drug discovery, genomics, and protein engineering. So they're framing it around a pretty big problem. It can take roughly 10 to 15 years to go from initial target discovery all the way to an approved drug. The idea here is that a lot of time isn't just lab work, it's also the complexity of research workflows, like reading papers, pulling data from different databases, and iterating hypotheses. So here are some examples of what this model can do. It can help with literature review, experimental planning, and data analysis all in one workflow. So instead of a scientist jumping between tools, papers, and databases, you can see here that the model is meant to just sit in the middle and connect everything together. Now, if you look at some benchmarks on how it performs across different scientific subjects, you can see that for all of these, GPT-Rosalind outperforms their leading model, GPT 5.4. In fact, for some of these, like experimental design and analysis, this is a huge improvement. Note that they also released a new life sciences research plugin for Codex, and this allows the model to connect to more than 50 scientific databases and tools. Think of it as like giving the model direct access to things like protein structure lookups, sequence databases, and literature search systems, so it can ground its reasoning in real scientific data. So this is meant to accelerate the thinking layer of science, helping researchers move from just raw data to hypotheses and experimental plans much faster. And if this system can work at scale, then it's pretty huge. It means AI isn't just assisting coding or writing anymore, it's starting to actively participate in real scientific discovery pipelines, which could speed up how new medicines and drugs are developed. Currently, this isn't open to everyone. If you're a life sciences lab, then you can request access on this page. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this in the description below. Also this week, we have an AI called WildDet 3D, which stands for 3D detection in the wild. So here's a demo on how it works. This is lightweight enough to run just on your iPhone. Now what you can do is just take a live scene and then draw a box around any object which you want to track. And then afterwards, it will detect that object in 3D and draw accurate 3D bounding boxes with metric depth and dimensions, as you can see here. Now there's even more you can do with this. You can just specify what object you want to outline using a text prompt. For example, you can write something like monitor and also, let's say, paper, and the AI will just analyze the video and then automatically detect and select the monitors and the paper. And you can see even if you move this around in 3D, it's able to keep the 3D bounding box on those objects. Now this also works for images, so for example, you can write animal and it's able to detect all the animals in this image and draw an accurate 3D bounding box on each animal. Here you can see it can even work with a ton of different objects in a scene. So this is an incredibly lightweight and fast tool that could be used for augmented reality or robotics or spatial AI. The nice thing is they've already released the models to this. So if you click on this code button and you scroll down a bit, here it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Next up, we have a super lightweight and efficient video generator called Motif Video 2B. As the name implies, this is a 2 billion parameter diffusion transformer model, and this uses far less data and compute than existing state-of-the-art methods. So here they say that it required less than 100K GPU hours to train, plus less than 10 million training videos. Now 2 billion parameters is basically like 7 times fewer parameters than Alibaba's one, and it uses an order of magnitude less training data than 2.1. First of all, here are some examples of its generations. You can see it can generate a variety of different scenes and art styles, and even though this required like 10 times less training data and it's way smaller, I would say it is close to the quality of Alibaba's one. Here are some additional examples for your reference. Now, interestingly, if you look at this V-Bench benchmark, which looks at video quality, Motif Video actually performs pretty close to one of the top open source models, 2.2, even though this is like 10 times smaller, and it outperforms other older models which are like also 7 times larger, like 2.1 or Hunyuan Video or Step Video. So very impressive performance given its size and efficiency. Now if you scroll up to the top of the page, they have released the Hugging Face folder to this, and if you scroll down a bit, here it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Note that here it says the minimum VRAM requirement is 19 gigabytes with CPU offloading. And here it says that official Comfy UI support will be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Also this week, this AI is really useful for creating 3D models. So it's called AnyGen, and this can create 3D assets with built-in skeletons which you can fully animate just from a single image. So by skeleton, I mean this comes complete with articulated rigs, which means you can plug this directly into any animation software without any messy post-processing. So here's an example of it in action. We can plug in a photo of this lamp, and then it would generate a model with fully articulated joints which you can move around. Or we can also generate this shark, and as you can see, it can also get this shark to swim pretty smoothly. So it automatically detects, like the skeleton of whatever object you input. Or we can also generate this dog and get it to run like this, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't matter what object or character you input, it's able to turn it into a 3D model with proper rigs that align naturally with the geometry. Now, here are some comparisons with other competitors that can do the same thing. So the ground truth or the answer is on the left column, and then we have AnyGen in the second column, and then we have some competitors like Animate and Puppeteer. You can see that AnyGen is the closest to the ground truth for both the segmentation and the skeleton estimation. The awesome thing is if you scroll up to the top of the page, they've released this already. So if you click on this code button and you scroll down a bit, here it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Note that this does require an NVIDIA GPU with at least 18 gigabytes of VRAM. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Next up, this is really exciting. So another lab from Alibaba called the ATH Lab, they released an open-ended world model called Happy Oyster. This is exactly like Google's Genie 3. Here you can create open-ended 3D worlds which you can interact with and move around in real time. And you can see this is super versatile. You can generate a variety of different characters. You can also get someone to ride a horse, or someone to paraglide, or even someone to skateboard or ride a dragon. You can also add prompts to direct the scene further. I think in the next few years, video games are going to be drastically different. Instead of just having everything pre-designed, it might be just open-ended worlds which are powered by fine-tuned AI models, which we can just prompt and direct further. And by the way, fun fact, this ATH Lab from Alibaba is also working on Happy Horse, which is the best video generator out there. It even beats Seedance 2.0, at least according to this artificial analysis leaderboard. So this ATH Lab from Alibaba is cooking some insane stuff. Now, if you want to play around with Happy Oyster, it says here you can join the waitlist to get early access on this website. So I'll link to this in the description below if you're interested. Now, in addition to Happy Oyster, NVIDIA also releases their own very consistent 3D world generator called Lyra 2. So this takes a video of a scene and it converts it into a 3D point cloud. Basically, it turns a raw video into an explorable and interactive 3D environment. It's able to map all the details very well. So here are some examples where we compare the input video with the generated 3D environment, and as you can see, the details are pretty much identical. It's really good at reconstructing the scene accurately. And because it also maps everything into a 3D Gaussian splat, it's not just video, that means everything stays consistent. Even if you look away and you walk somewhere else for an hour and then you walk back, the scene stays the same as before. This is what they call long horizon. Now, what is this used for? You can export these scenes and then run them in NVIDIA's Isaac Sim, which is like a virtual gym for training robots. So afterwards, you can get a robot to navigate around this 3D environment and train itself like this. So this isn't just about creating 3D worlds, but it's actually a really cool step for creating simulation-ready environments for training robots. The awesome thing is this is already open source. So at the top of the page, if you click on this code button and you scroll down a bit, here it contains all the instructions on how to run this. Note that this is actually surprisingly small, only 131 megabytes in size, so you should be able to run this on most consumer devices. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Alright, next up, this is probably the coolest AI this week. So Tencent announces HY World 2.0. This is a multimodal world model that generates, reconstructs, and simulates interactive 3D worlds from either a text prompt or an input image or even an input video. So here are some examples for reference. Note that this can generate a variety of different scenes. It can be first person or third person. You can control different characters, and this is super flexible. So you can just enter a text prompt, or you can also input one image or multiple images or even a video, and it would generate a complete 3D scene which you can explore and interact with. Everything is actually created in 3D. And of course, you can also create environments to train robots like this. The awesome thing about this is the outputs of this model are pipeline ready. So these are 3D worlds which you can then edit further through like Unity or Unreal. It includes standard 3D exports like Mesh or 3DGS and point clouds. And here it says we are open sourcing this. So if you go to their GitHub, which I'll link to in the description below, here currently they've released some of the codes and they are working to release the remaining models and code soon. So stay tuned for that. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Next up, ByteDance releases a new AI which is really useful for generating UGC or marketing content. So it's called Omni Show, and here are various examples for your reference where we can just get a fictional AI character to talk about any product you input. It can be like a bag of protein powder or makeup or a hair curler, it doesn't matter. You can add any product into this and it would create a realistic looking video of a person talking about the product. So we can input reference images for both the person and the product. And if you compare this to other competitor models like Hunyuan Custom or Humo or Vase, you can see that this new one is a lot more consistent. Both the product and the person look exactly like the reference images, whereas for the other models, it tends to mess things up. Here's another example where we can input this man and this spray bottle, and as you can see, this new one from Omni Show looks way more accurate and consistent compared to competitors. Now, what you can also do is input your own audio to control exactly what the person says. For example, here's the input audio.
Opening with a close-up of a uniquely shaped bottle with a striking blue color.
And here's our results from Omni Show.
Opening with a close-up of a uniquely shaped bottle with a striking blue color. Opening with a close-up of...
Or here's another example.
Introducing this versatile all-purpose cream designed to nourish and protect your skin.
Now, these are pretty bad examples because they used robotic AI-generated voices, but I mean, you can easily plug in a photo of a real person plus their actual voice, and it would clone this really naturally and realistically. Now, in addition to audio, there's even more you can input. You can also input a pose skeleton video of exactly how you want that person to move, and it's able to apply the exact movements onto the video, including the hands and fingers. Well, here's another example for your reference. So now influencers don't actually have to do the recording themselves. They can just plug their photo and voice through this AI and then mass produce a ton of content for sponsors. Now they have released a GitHub repo to this, and over here it says the code is under internal review. Please stay tuned. So it looks like they are planning to potentially open source this. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Also this week, Anthropic released their latest model, Claude Opus 4.7.
Claude Opus 4.7 is here.
Claude just released a brand new model called Claude Opus 4.7.
The kind of best AI model is here, Claude Opus 4.7.
Oh, this is a good one. Claude Opus 4.7 just dropped. It's Anthropic's new flagship model. While it is available on all plans, including the free plan, the usage is extremely limited.
So this latest model brings substantial gains to complex software engineering and agentic workflows. In fact, it's designed to be a lot more autonomous, and it's able to handle more complex, long-running tasks without much supervision. Here, if you look at these benchmark scores, while it's not as good as their Mythos preview model, which they are not releasing because it's quote-unquote too dangerous, here Opus 4.7 is still substantially better than the previous leader, Opus 4.6, across all these different benchmarks, including SweBench Pro and SweBench Verified and Terminal Bench. Here are some noticeable improvements. They claim it's much better at instruction following. In fact, if you're used to working with Opus 4.6 or earlier models, you often need to micromanage it and prompt it sequentially, step after step. But for Opus 4.7, you can just give it the entire overarching workflow with multiple steps, and it can just autonomously proceed and do the entire workflow without much supervision. It also has improved multimodal support. So this can now accept images up to like over 2500 pixels on the long side, more than 3 times as the prior Claude models. So this is great for like UI design or data extraction from charts or agentic computer use where it needs to look at a screen to see where to click next. Now, if you look at this leaderboard from LM Arena, where users can blind test different models side by side, you can see that Opus 4.7 is indeed ranked number 1 for both text and for coding. Now, you know what's really interesting is that some users feel that Opus 4.7 is actually dumber, or it performs worse in certain things. So actually, if you look at this chart by Arena, it's actually quite insightful. So it seems like Opus 4.7 is fine-tuned to do really well in terms of coding, creative writing, multi-turn tasks, as well as software IT, writing, literature, and language. However, it performs significantly worse in terms of things like business, management, and financial ops, as well as entertainment, sports, and media, and also hard prompts, longer query, and instruction following, which is really surprising. In fact, I was also using Opus 4.7 today to vibe code stuff using Claude Code, and it actually broke some stuff which Opus 4.6 would never do. It's kind of more erratic, and if your use case is one of these at the bottom, then it's actually better to use 4.6 instead of 4.7. Here are some other results comparing Opus 4.7 with 4.6. So here is MindBench, which tests how good an AI model is at creating 3D voxels like this. So here's one example of an astronaut. Here's another one of the steampunk airship. It seems that Opus 4.7 does contain a bit more detail and is a bit more realistic. And then here is a fighter jet. And then here we have a flying aircraft carrier with a flat deck on top. Planes parked on the deck, massive jet engines underneath. Here's another independent leaderboard called Artificial Analysis, and if you rank this by their intelligence index, then Opus 4.7 Max isn't actually like way better. It scores the same as Gemini 3.1 Pro and GPT 5.4 Extra High, which was released like months ago. So at least according to this leaderboard, it's actually not that impressive. And if you look at speed, Opus 4.7 is extremely slow, like way slower than Gemini 3.1 Pro and GPT 5.4. If you look at the price, then Opus 4.7 is also the most expensive. So honestly, there's no reason to use Opus 4.7, given that Gemini and GPT 5.4 are just as performant, but they're way faster and they cost less. The awesome thing is Opus 4.7 is already out in the Claude chat platform, as well as via API, as well as in Claude Code. So if I open up Claude Code really quickly and I type /model, you can see that the default is now Opus 4.7. And note that this has a 1 million token context window, so you can fit a ton of information into your prompt at once. And you know, the best thing is here it says pricing remains the same as Opus 4.6. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week, Alibaba continues to cook. They released their latest model of Qwen called Qwen 3.6 35B A3B. It's a long name, but basically this is a medium-sized 35 billion parameter parameter mixture of experts models, so think of it as like a team of AIs working together to help you solve a problem. And while you're using it, out of these 35 billion parameters, only 3 billion parameters are active, so this is quite efficient. Now, if you compare this new Qwen 3.6 35B with other similar sized models, you can see that on average it does outperform the rest, especially in terms of autonomous coding and agentic tasks. So here we have a ton of standard benchmarks like Terminal Bench, SweBench Pro, SweBench Verified, etc. It's also great for running OpenClaw or other agentic systems. It's also great for like graduate level reasoning questions and also competitive math, multimodal reasoning, and image reasoning. The awesome thing is, as with the previous Qwen models, they've already open sourced this. So the models are already out on Hugging Face and ModelScope. Note that it's still pretty huge at 72 gigabytes in size. And then further down this page, it contains instructions on how you can link this to OpenClaw Qwen Code or Claude Code or other agentic systems. Plus, you can also try this for free using their online chat platform. So this is just chat.qwen.ai. It's very similar to ChatGPT, and then at the top here is where you can select the latest Qwen 3.6. All the links are up here, so if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week we have a new demo from Unitree. This time, they're showcasing their flagship H1 humanoid robot running at insane speeds. In fact, this is running at 10 meters per second, which is around 36 kilometers per hour. This is the world record for a humanoid robot. Like, this is incredibly fast. Note that this weighs around 62 kilograms and has a 0.8 meter leg length. As you can see from this video, it's not just like running or jogging, but it's freaking sprinting across the ground. It has very fluid whole body control and high frequency stability. This highlights major progress in like dynamic motion and control systems for humanoid robots. Now, speaking of running, actually, the second robot marathon is happening in Beijing. Last year, we saw a ton of pretty cute and clumsy robots that didn't really run well, except for Unitree and a few other select robot companies, which just dominated the marathon. But this year, it feels a bit different. We now have more than 70 teams putting their humanoids to the test, as you can see here, and around 40% of them are running fully autonomously. There's no remote control or teleoperation, and some of the top robots are getting really close to human sprint speeds. You can see a lot of them balance a lot better now. It's significantly different from last year, where we have a ton of cute little robots falling down or stumbling. This year, most of them actually can sprint really well.
Starts like any other race, but this one is different. 12,000 runners are competing against more than 100 humanoid robots in a 21-kilometer half marathon in Beijing. This is the second competition of its kind, and expectations were high. 40% of the robots are moving autonomously, using their own sensors, algorithms, and artificial intelligence to navigate the course and maintain pace. It's a major step up from the inaugural race in 2025, when most robots stumbled and overheated. Only 6 of the 21 finished. The fastest took 2 hours and 14 minutes, twice as long as the winning human time.
For the companies behind them, this isn't just about speed, it's about data. Every step each robot takes generates information about how they handle obstacles, battery life, and unexpected conditions. That will all feed into the system and help train the next generation of humanoid machines.
In the space of just a year, battery technology, AI, and manufacturing processes have made great strides, reflecting how much of a national priority this industry has become. China sees robots like these as part of its future workforce, in factories, services, even in homes as assistants and companions. This year, at least 3 robots beat human runners to the finish line. The champion, developed by smartphone maker Honor, finished in 50 minutes and 26 seconds, beating the half-marathon world record. Ultimately, this isn't just a competition. It's a test of how quickly machines can operate in the real world, and part of a much bigger contest, the global race to dominate advanced technologies. Here, China wants to prove it's ahead of the pack.
Next up, Leju Robotics just flipped the switch on something pretty huge. Here they're showcasing what they claim to be the first automated production line for humanoid robots, launched in Foshan, Guangdong. As you can see here in this factory footage, the line is able to roll out one complete humanoid robot every 30 minutes. That adds up to over 10,000 units per year. Notice the robotic arms, automated guided vehicles, and precision stations moving in sync, assembling torsos, limbs, and heads, with around 92% of the key processes fully automated. Now, the whole setup features 24 digitalized assembly stages, full digital management through an online platform for quality traceability, and it also contains a flexible design so you can switch between different robot models without major downtime. Each unit goes through 77 quality and safety checks covering components all the way to the finished robot. Now, this isn't completely autonomous, so for several of these shots you can see that there's still a human in the loop. Nevertheless, this is still a big shift from usual lab prototypes and hand-built robots. Right now we're moving closer to manufacturing humanoid robots at an industrial scale, just like car assembly lines. And this could really drive costs down through economies of scale and speed up deployment in factories, warehouses, and beyond. Next up, Adobe releases a really useful AI for precise image relighting. It's called Token Relight, and this gives you continuous control over multiple lighting attributes like intensity, color, ambient illumination, diffuse level, and even 3D light positions within a single photograph. So here are some examples. The left is the original input image. Well, I can add a light source anywhere I want. For example, here you can see I'm moving the arrow keys to move this light source around. I can also move the light source farther away or closer to the object like this. So this gives me precise 3D control. I can also change the light color to something else like yellow, and then again I can move this closer or farther away. I can move this anywhere I want and it would automatically relight the image. Here are some other examples. Notice how the shadows, the highlights, the overall illumination updates realistically across the entire scene. Here are some other examples where we can adjust the intensity of a light source like this. So it's like a continuous slider. And then here's another example. Although one flaw with this one is it doesn't update the light's reflection in the mirror. You can also adjust how diffuse the light is. So here's the low setting with sharper light and shadows, whereas if we drag this diffuse slider, the light just becomes a lot more diffuse and smooth. And then we can also control the ambient or the environment lighting like this. So this gives you a ton of precise lighting controls. This AI is able to handle this relighting because during training, it was fed all these different lighting attributes like intensity, diffuse color, location, etc. And these settings are also tokenized and then fed through the transformer model. So remarkably, without any explicit training or supervision, the model kind of learns how light interacts with geometry, occlusion, and materials across a ton of different images. Now, if you scroll up to the top of the page, right now they've only released a technical paper. Since this is coming from Adobe and they rarely release anything, I wouldn't get my hopes up that this would be open source. But anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Next up, we have a standardized benchmark for testing how good AI models are at playing video games. So it's called Game World, and this provides a verifiable way to evaluate, well, how well agentic AI models can play browser-based games using either low-level controls or semantic actions. As you can see on the page, this includes 34 games across different genres, including runner, arcade, platformer, puzzle, and simulation genres. In fact, they even have a YouTube live stream where you can see a certain AI model. In this case, as I'm recording, it looks like they're broadcasting Quen 3.5 playing this game. Now, on this results chart, you can see that in terms of generalist multimodal models, it seems like Gemini and then GPT and Claude are in the top 3, whereas for computer use agents, ByteDance's Seed and then Sonnet 4.6 and then Gemini's computer use are in the top 3. That's still well below the novice human baseline of 64%, showing that there's still plenty of room for improvement, especially in timing, spatial navigation, and open world coordination. Still very impressive that some of these were able to get over 30%, considering these are just general chat models. They're not meant to play video games, but they do have vision capabilities, so they can analyze the screen and then press keys. Now, if you're interested in evaluating your own agent, well, at the top of the page, they've released a GitHub repo, and if you scroll down a bit here, it contains all the instructions on how you can plug in your own LLM to assess and evaluate its performance. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Also this week, Google releases their most expressive text-to-speech model yet. It's called Gemini 3.1 Flash Text-to-Speech, and here are some of its examples. Note that this new TTS model can now accept meta tags that dictate the emotion or how the sentence should be spoken. For example, excited, amazed, whispers, panicked sighs, and laughs. Let's hear the results.
Welcome to the next generation of Gemini text-to-speech. Watch how these tags transform the tone. We can drop into a dark, suspenseful whisper, or speed things up to absolute panic mode because we're running out of time. The model breathes. It even laughs. The best part is being able to control the timing with a dramatic pause.
As you can see, this new model generates very natural sounding speech with fine-grained control over the style, pacing, and delivery. You can add these tags that control emotion and rhythm right within your prompt. Here's another fun example where we can generate different ways to speak up this script. So first, here's just a safe, neutral academic who speaks like he's giving a lecture.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
And then next we have a troubled philosopher who's having an internal debate with himself. You can even specify like really subtle stuff like this.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
And then next we have a deranged outcast.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them, to die. No, then by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to.
So this is an extremely expressive result. You can see it even beats 11 Labs version 3. This supports over 70 languages as well. Now this is already out via API and Google's AI Studio. So if you click on this link, here you can select the latest Gemini 3.1 Flash TTS and you can try this for free. So for example, here is where you can add a scene, here's where you can add context, and then here's where you can add a script with meta tags that control the expressiveness and pacing of the speech. Now unfortunately, this Gemini TTS only comes with default speakers, so you can't like clone someone's voice. However, they give you a ton of options, plus even different accents. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week.